Welcome, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. The cruelest thing my husband, Cortland Rusk, ever did wasn't the cheating. It was the way he looked at me after I found the truth and said, "You went through my stuff." Unbelievable, like I was the problem. No apology, no shame, just irritation that I'd interrupted his double life. I stood there in our kitchen in Overland Park, Kansas, holding his second phone with my hand shaking, and he acted like I'd scratched his car. That was the moment I realized I wasn't married to a man who made mistakes. I was married to a man who felt entitled. Here's how it happened. I'm Aloan Price, born and raised in the Midwest, the kind of woman who believed love was repetition, packing lunches, keeping birthdays straight, remembering the little things. Cortland worked sales, always chasing big quarters, always talking about the next bonus like it would fix whatever fell off between us. For months, he'd been distant in a way that made me question myself. If I asked what was wrong, he said I was starting drama. If I asked where he'd been, he said I was controlling. I kept trying to be softer, quieter, easier to live with, like peace could be earned by shrinking. His family loved him the way people love someone they never hold accountable. His mother, Jory Wynn Rusk, called him misunderstood whenever he was rude. His brother Blaine joked about marriage being a trap like it was cute. At holidays in Olathe, if Cortland snapped at me, Jory would tilt her head and say, "He's under a lot of pressure." Nobody ever told him to speak to me with respect. I felt like I was always the one adjusting, keeping my tone calm, swallowing the sting, trying not to ruin the vibe. The weird part is how normal it starts to feel when disrespect becomes routine. The biggest change was his schedule. Cortland suddenly had family dinners that didn't include me. He said his mom needed him, or Blaine needed advice, or a cousin had a situation. If I offered to come, he'd get annoyed fast, too fast, like my presence was a threat. He began guarding his phone, taking it into the bathroom, flipping it face down, acting like I was nosy for glancing at a screen that used to sit open on the couch. He also started keeping our conversations short, like he was saving his warmth for someone else. I blamed work. I blamed stress. I blamed myself. The night everything cracked open was painfully ordinary. I was looking for a key fob battery in the junk drawer, where we kept rubber bands, expired coupons, and random screws. My fingers hit something wrapped in a microfiber cloth, carefully tucked behind old warranty papers. It wasn't a tool. It was a phone. A second phone. My stomach dropped so hard I had to grip the counter. I told myself there had to be a harmless reason. Maybe a work line, maybe a replacement. Then the screen lit up when I pressed the side button. No passcode. Like it was never meant to be protected from me, just hidden. The first thing I saw was a pinned thread labeled Family Group Chat Red Heart. For breath, I felt relief. I actually felt guilty, like I'd stumbled into something private, but innocent. Then I opened it, and guilt evaporated. It wasn't family. It was a group of names I didn't recognize. Maris Denon, Dale Varon, Kessa Lorne, and a couple others, people talking like they shared system. The messages weren't romantic and messy. They were organized. They had dates, locations, and screenshots of reservations. And then I saw my name, typed casually like a problem they managed. Maris wrote, "Is she still doing that dinner thing like it fixes everything?" And Cortland replied, "Yeah, it keeps her busy." Dale posted, "Same cover as last month? Family dinner still works?" Cortland answered, "Always." If I act annoyed, she backs off. I sat on the kitchen floor because my knees stopped working. The chat was a blueprint. Who covered for who? Which weekends were safe? Which spouses were clingy? Which excuses worked best? They called it family because it sounded harmless if a notification popped up. It was a mask built out of a sweet word. My hands shook as I started taking screenshots. I scrolled until my eyes burned. Hotel confirmations. Calendar invites. Inside jokes about me working late. One message from Cortland said, "She won't question it. She hates conflict." Another person replied with a laughing emoji. No remorse anywhere. Not even the sloppy kind. Just the confidence of people who'd been getting away with something for a long time. Then I heard the front door. Cortland walked in, set his keys down, and stopped when he saw me. His gaze landed on the second phone in my hand. He didn't panic. He didn't plead. He sighed like I'd left dishes in the sink. "You went through my stuff," he said, flat and disgusted. Unbelievable. I waited, stupidly, for him to say my name softly, to ask if I was okay, to look ashamed. He didn't. He stepped closer, not to comfort me, but to take control of the situation. When I asked what the chat was, he smirked like my question was naive. "It's not what you think," he said, then immediately added, "and even if it was, you invaded my privacy." The way he flipped it made me feel dizzy. He wasn't sorry he hurt me. He was angry, I knew. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. Something inside me turned quiet and cold. The part that realized arguments with someone like Cortland were traps. I stood up, wiped my face with the back of my hand, and went to my laptop. Cortland followed me, still lecturing, still acting offended. I opened my email and wrote 3 messages. One to my bank, one to my CPA, and one to a divorce attorney. I kept it simple. I found evidence of hidden accounts and infidelity. I need an emergency consult and advice to secure my finances. Cortland laughed once and said, "You're being dramatic." I didn't respond. That night, I packed a bag and drove to my sister Tamsin's place in Lenexa. I didn't take everything. I took essentials, documents, medication, a few clothes because I wanted a clean exit, not a chaotic one. Tamsin opened the door and didn't ask for the whole story right away. She just looked at my face and stepped aside. I slept in her guest room and stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet. The quiet felt brutal at first, like proof I'd been abandoned. Then it started to feel like relief. My phone kept buzzing with Cortland's calls. Not one voicemail said, "I'm sorry." They were all variations of "call me back." The next morning, my CPA, Harlan Keefe, called me. He didn't gossip. He asked practical questions: joint accounts, credit cards, recent withdrawals, odd reimbursements. As he spoke, I remembered things I'd brushed off: Cortland's work expenses that didn't match receipts, late notices he blamed on billing errors, a new card he said was for travel points. Harlan told me to pull statements and freeze my credit. Then the attorney, Brenna Sloan, met me in Kansas City that afternoon. She was calm, direct, and unimpressed by excuses. "We don't need his confession," she said. "We need facts." Over the next few days, I moved like someone protecting a house from a slow leak. Brenna helped me separate finances legally and document everything. I changed passwords, locked down accounts, and removed Cortland from any access he didn't legally require. I started a folder, screenshots of the group chat, hotel confirmations, and dates that overlapped with times he claimed he was with family. Cortland kept texting, cycling between anger and mock sympathy. "You're throwing our marriage away. You're embarrassing me. Stop involving strangers." When I told him communication had to go through my attorney, he replied, "You're not that important." No remorse, just cruelty dressed up as confidence. Cortland's family covers started collapsing the moment paperwork entered the picture. Brenna requested financial records formally, and suddenly those reimbursements mattered. The group chat wasn't just proof of cheating. It was proof of coordination, shared spreadsheets about travel costs, suggestions for how to label expenses, and reminders about deleting receipts. Harlan flagged patterns that looked like padded expense reports. Cortland's job had a strict compliance policy, and he'd been careless. He assumed nobody would ever examine his details. That's what entitlement does. It makes people sloppy. When Brenna warned his employer might be contacted through legal discovery, Cortland didn't apologize. He snapped, "So you're trying to ruin me now?" Karma didn't come as a dramatic public downfall. It came as an email and a locked door. Cortland's employer opened an internal review after a vendor questioned charges tied to his account. Within weeks, Cortland was called into a meeting with HR and his manager, Grant Lytle, and asked to explain inconsistencies. He tried to talk his way out, the same way he tried to talk me out of my reality. But the receipts didn't match. The dates didn't match. The chat screenshots didn't match his story. Cortland was terminated quietly. No headlines, no announcements, just a deactivated badge and final paycheck paperwork. The family group chat went silent the moment it got expensive. The saddest part was how fast his people disappeared. Maris stopped responding. Dale left the chat. Someone renamed it, then deleted it. The same crew who joked about me being busy didn't want to be connected to him when consequences showed up. Cortland tried calling me from unknown numbers. When I didn't answer, he sent emails that still didn't include remorse, only rage and bargaining. If you drop this, I'll make it easy. You're not getting the house. You think you're winning? He couldn't stand losing control. He didn't miss me. He missed the life he could run without being questioned. The legal side stayed grounded and brutal. Divorce isn't a movie. It's forms, timelines, and waiting rooms that smell like old carpet. Cortland tried to stall. He tried to intimidate. He tried to paint me as unstable. Brenna didn't react to any of it. She stayed on the facts, the hidden phone, the group chat, the financial inconsistencies, the attempts to shift blame. Cortland showed up to meetings with that same irritated face, like the process was an inconvenience. When a mediator asked if he felt any regret, Cortland shrugged and said, "People move on." That was his version of accountability. Pretending harm was normal. I suffered in quiet ways that didn't look dramatic from the outside. I'd wake up with my heart racing, replaying messages I couldn't unsee. I'd flinch when my phone buzzed. I'd sit in my sister's kitchen and feel embarrassed by my own loyalty, like I'd been the only one taking the marriage seriously. Some nights I cried so hard I got headaches, then wiped my face and went to work the next day like nothing happened. That's what betrayal does. It turns your body into a place you don't recognize. But slowly, routines helped. Therapy helped. Structure helped. Not because it erased the pain, because it gave me a way to carry it without letting it steer. My private transformation didn't come from revenge. It came from rebuilding quietly. I moved back into my house after the legal steps were clear, changed the locks, and rearranged rooms so they felt like mine again. I paid off debt Cortland helped create, then built savings with a steadiness I didn't know I had. I learned to say no without explaining. I stopped apologizing for asking questions. I took a better role at work, still in Kansas, still grounded, because my focus returned once I wasn't living inside someone else's lies. No speeches, no public victory lap, just a life that felt solid again. A year later, the memory of that second phone still stung, but it didn't own me. I understood something now. Cortland called it a family group chat because family sounds safe, because safe words make good covers. But real family doesn't require secrecy to exist, and love doesn't punish you for noticing the truth. The last time I heard about Cortland, he was bouncing between short-term jobs, blaming everyone, still telling the story like he was the victim of an overreaction. No remorse, even at the end. And my comeback stayed private. I stopped being the person a liar could build a life on. See you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe.